All right. John's question is up next. It says, a Roth conversion plan. I don't have one. Should I wait until I retire in order to lower my tax rate or do it now? I'm currently 61 years old and plan on retiring at 67.
All right, I don't exactly know the question you're asking, John. So I'm just going to kind of start talking, and I think.
Well, I think I understand. Let me just set it up, and then you put all the meat on it.
All right.
You can imagine when you're 61 years of age, probably a lot of his peer group are starting to retire.
Sure.
And he's probably also started watching a lot of financial content. And what is the first thing, because we do it all the time too, is that we talk about for retirees, one of the big benefit value adds I think as financial advisors we offer is we come up with Roth conversion strategies. And he's like, I hear about this thing.
Well,
what is this thing? I think that's that's the buzzword. He's heard probably he might be watching content or he's hearing other peers in his group of influence. They're talking about it, and he's like, do I need to be doing this? And so that's why I'll say what a Roth conversion is, and then I'll let you give the decision matrix of how you bring it all together. A Roth conversion is where, look, it's not uncommon, especially for someone who's 61. Because there was a long period of time before Roth assets and other things where 401ks traditionally, you get a tax deduction when you fund it. But when you pull it out in the future, it's going to be taxed at ordinary income taxes. And also, think about this. The government actually has a mandated retirement. Required minimum distributions depend upon how old you are. For most people, it's going to be 75 years of age. But they force you to start pulling that money out. And since it's taxed at ordinary income tax rates, those are the highest tax rates that you can pay on money. You can quickly see why you have all this money from all your employer match as well as all your deductible contributions. You've got to figure out, is there a proactive way that you can pull this money out in maybe a more tax effective way so that you just don't wait and procrastinate and then you pay the highest rates?
That's exactly right. And so at 61, if you're still working, the problem is, John, you still have earned income. So if in your working years, you were in a high income environment, if you were to start a Roth conversion strategy now, as it's traditionally defined, you start pulling pre-tax assets and 401k assets and converting to Roth, there's a really good chance you're going to be converting at a higher tax rate than you will be in when you retire. So one of the things we often counsel retirees to do is wait until your tax rate drops. And then when your tax rate drops, then we can start playing the tax rate game. We can figure, okay, what bracket do we want to maximize? Okay, when are you going to start drawing Social Security? How much of your Social Security do you want to be taxed? How do we keep an eye on the IRMA threshold so you don't get a Medicare surcharge? There's a lot of things that have to go into that thought process, but it usually happens after someone retires when their income falls. Now, maybe what you're saying is, hey, I'm 61, I'm still working, I just don't have any Roth assets yet. Maybe what you're actually talking about is, should I think about beginning to build Roth assets? Well, if you're someone who's in a high income bracket and you've not been doing it previously, but now you're able to do it, backdoor Roth conversions could very much likely make sense for you if your accounts are structured well. Because even if you're going to work from 61 to 65 and you're just doing backdoors for you, and if you're married, your spouse, and you do that for the next 4 years, that can still be a large sum of money that can accumulate and continue to grow tax-free forever until you start doing these other conversions. You can see that at 61, there's a lot of stuff to begin thinking through as you begin to approach retirement. Because frankly, a lot of interesting stuff happens in your 60s. And then a lot of interesting stuff, frankly, a lot of interesting stuff happens every decade. But especially as you're moving into a very unique transition from being in the workforce to being out of the workforce, there are a lot of things to think about. There are a lot of boxes to check. There are a lot of strategies you want to make sure you keep an eye on. This may, in fact, be the time when you say, hey, I can do all the research, I can listen to all the YouTube channels, I can read all the books, but man, I really wish I had a co-pilot. I wish I had someone who could walk alongside me and not just give me like the general advice, not just explain what the concept is, but can bring it down and say, hey, John, this is what makes sense for you. This is the strategy that would be optimized for what you are hoping to accomplish. And if you find yourself in that position, I would encourage you, think about hiring a professional. And if you're going to hire a professional, we have a great resource on the website, moneyguide.com/resources. It's questions to ask a financial advisor to know, is this someone who's going to actually be able to help me navigate the financial future that I want to actually navigate? So ask them these questions. And if you don't know where to start, we would love for you to fulfill the abundance cycle. Go to moneyguy.com or aboundwealth.com. Check out the work with us. This is the exact type of work that we do here at the firm to help people figure out, hey, I'm approaching retirement. Is a Roth conversion strategy right for me? It's a great question for a professional to answer.
What I love about what you just shared, I think about there's an influencer out there who's a perma hater of advisors because he wants you to buy his thing.
He'd rather you buy his stuff.
But he showed his age a little bit and also the fact that he doesn't really know what we do, because he said one of the problem with financial advisors is that they charge higher fees because people have more money
later on in life,
for older clients. And I was like, tell me you don't know what financial advisors do without telling me you don't know what financial advisors do, because I always tell you, the older you get, the more complicated a lot of this stuff. I tell you all the time, take all of our free stuff. Please go to moneyguy.com/resources. Accelerate your journey, especially if you're young at the beginning of the process. But you don't have to. Eventually, complexity will just find you. Yep. And that's what we see it. I mean, we had a call last week for a client that just turned 65, looking at all the Medicare issues, all the supplemental coverages, and trying to navigate that. And we had that phone call, and you could just see. And they're like, holy cow, I had no idea all these different elements on even choosing which Medicare premium or coverage to take on this. I'm like, yeah, this is what we do. And I think that's the big thing for John to recognize, is that there will be more of these things coming. You've only had one retirement, the one that you're living. There's somebody out there, like an advisor, who's done hundreds of these things and can help you optimize your path, because it happens every year. All that IRMA analysis, all the Social Security taxability, all the looking at tax rates, looking at the distributions that you're getting from your portfolio. That stuff happens every year. This is not like you do it once and then you're like, okay, I'm good and I'm done. No, every year this is going to be a process that needs to occur. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, and it's good that if you can get somebody to help you through that process, so it protects you from what you don't know.
Yep.